Okay, hi, thanks for joining us today. We are literally in the midst of the inferno in Arizona this week, and it really makes us love this sunflower wreath all the more. So we know that sunflowers, this is the time of the year when they are blooming and blossoming and looking gorgeous. And so I'm going to share with you some tips and tricks for putting this one together. And of course, you know that our kits come with all of the materials that you need. So I'm going to show you all of those materials as we walk through this today. So here we go. We're going to get started. All right, so these are our instructions. And our instructions start out with cutting the mesh. And it talks about the fact that we want to cut our yellow mesh into 36 squares. And we want to cut our green mesh into 18 squares. Our brown mesh, we're not going to cut. We want to leave that one alone. So a lot of people have been asking, okay, so what's the best way to get to that point? So really we want to get squares or rectangular shapes that are about 10 inches long. The problem is when the companies roll this onto a roll, sometimes they don't do it exact. So this should be 10 yards, which would give us exactly 36 squares at 10 inches. But some rolls might be a little bit short and some rolls might be a little bit long. So, because I don't want to get frustrated at the end and not have enough squares or have too many, I use a different technique. And the way that I like to do this is I literally roll the whole thing out.
Do you need a second set of hands?
I might need a second set
Erica.
of hands. But, you know, I'm pretty good at doing this. I've done a few of these maybe in my day.
We need some hands.
So, anyway, so I'm just unrolling it and literally like right in front of me. And I'm letting it billow on the ground. But I'll let it billow on the table instead so that you can see the billowing as it occurs, all right? So, now some people like to do it this way. Some people like to use like an aid to help them, and I can show you that way as well. So, but I'm going to start out with this one. Actually, I'll ask Erica to help me get ready to show them with the aid. Erica, could you just cut me a piece of cardboard about 9.5 inches wide? Like 9.5 by 10 would be perfect. Okay. So I've got this all unrolled now. And I'm literally just going to take my two ends and put them together, and I'm going to just fold this whole thing right in half. And even when I'm folding it in half, I'm not really worried about it being perfect, okay? Because nobody's going to be able to tell if your square is off by 3 centimeters. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and fold this in half again so that we end up with basically 4 sections of yellow. And you can see, like, this one even got twisted. Not a big deal, because we just want to get these 4 sections cut. So I'm literally just going to cut this in these 2 places, and I'll end up with 4 pieces of yellow that are approximately the same length. Again, not perfect, approximate. Okay, it was that easy. Now, I've got my 4 pieces, and these I need to cut into thirds. So, I kind of already did the math for us. So, so in order to cut this into thirds, I'm literally just going to fold this over, and I'm going to fold this over, and get it pretty equivalent. That looks about right to me. And now I'm going to do the same thing that I just did. I'm just going to cut this end and that end. Okay, and this guy needs cutting. Not sure why he wasn't part of that. Okay, yeah, so now I've got all my pieces cut. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now we're going to cut this again into thirds. So 3 times 12 is 36. All right, so when I cut this into thirds, that's literally going to give me every single piece of yellow mesh that I need. All right, so again, I'm just going to fold this side over like this, and I'm going to fold this side over like this, and I'm just going to cut both sides. So if you are a perfectionist, you're probably thinking, oh, I don't know if I can do this like that. That lady is crazy. I need to measure this stuff so that it all comes out perfect. And but really, it is going to look gorgeous even if these are not cut exactly identical to each other. It will not make any difference whatsoever in your finished product. Okay, this is pretty thick, so I probably could have done, you know, one half first and then the other half. But for the sake of what we're doing here, I'm just going to keep at it this way. Do one layer first, and then do another layer. Because this stuff got thick when I had so many rows. Okay. I think we're almost done cutting through all of this. Perfect. Yes. Oh, okay. I'm in the middle of something right now, you cutie pie. Okay, so, and of course you're allowed to take breaks to talk to your kids, because we all know that, you know, when they want us, they are not going away unless we acknowledge them. So, okay, so I've got my 36 squares. I'm going to use 2 squares in each bundle. And you can see, like, these have crooked edges. It doesn't matter at all. All right? So I'm going to fold together 2 ends into the middle. Let me hold this up so that you can see it really good like this. So see how I folded it kind of into the middle? I don't know if you remember, like, learning how to fold napkins, but that's what this reminds me of, learning how to fold napkins. I fold it into the middle, and then I literally just, like, scrunch it together like this, okay? That is what our petals are gonna look like. So nobody can see any raggedy edges, right? You can see some of this fraying happening. Don't worry about that. Once it's all put together, we'll go back in and we'll trim up the fraying a little bit. So I'm gonna take one of these pipe cleaners, wrap it around the center where I've scrunched it all together, and then I'm just gonna twist it like a twist tie. There we go. And you don't have to twist it a million times. I literally just twisted twice, okay, you guys? So 2 twists and you're good. Now I'm gonna do my second one exactly the same way. Folding it into the center, like we do with a napkin, scrunching it together. Voila, my second petal. This one is going to attach right on at the same exact place, okay? So now, after I get it on here, I'm gonna futz with these a little bit. And you can see as I'm actually putting it on, I kind of lay them down like more next to each other than on top of each other. It won't really make a huge difference either way. It's just a preference thing. I think it kind of puffs out easier if you lay them next to each other. Again, I twisted once, I twisted twice. Now, this is all set. All I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go like this. to make them kind of bend upwards because I want them to look more like a petal instead of spreading out like a bow. Okay, so I take this and I tie it right onto the wreath frame. And you can see I'm going on, not on this inside one. We want to skip the inside one because that's where the center of our flower is going to be. And I'm actually attaching it here on this second ring towards as we're moving outwards. All right, so I'm attaching it right here. Now, when you put this first one on, you're going to be like, oh, there's no way this thing is going to fill in and look good. As we go, as we get more and more petals attached, I promise it all fills in. This is exactly 36 yellow ones. Look at how full this gets. And they actually sit on top of each other and help each other puff out. So don't worry, you don't have to futz with this a lot, okay?
Mama.
Just attach it.
Mama.
Yeah, Dolly, what's up?
I'm not gonna step on your phone now.
Oh, good. Don't step on my phone. That would be bad. Okay, so I'm going to do one more of these just so that we get a really good hang of it. Scrunch it together. And you can see I work pretty fast. Like, there's no reason to try and scrunch them really symmetrically and perfectly. Petals on a flower are not symmetric or perfect. And when you look at a flower, though, it does look symmetrical. I mean, so it really, you just want to get it all on there as quickly as you can. Otherwise, you'll be at it all day long. Okay. So we're actually, because we're putting 2 petals in each clump, it's going to make 18 of these clumps that we need to attach, all right? So that is your goal. The goal is 18. So what happens if you accidentally cut wrong and you end up with less than 18 clumps? Nobody's going to tell. It won't matter, okay? So if you end up 1 clump short, you'll be good. What happens if you end up with extras and you have more clumps? Throw them on there. No problem. The fuller the better. And nobody's going to know that you had 38 clumps nobody's going to know that you had 20 clumps instead of 18 clumps, okay? So, now this one is going to go on the next row behind this. And I actually probably, if I were doing this, I would probably start with that row. It's a little bit easier to get in there if you're, laying those ones on top of these ones. But it doesn't really matter. You can still slide in, as you can tell. So I'm sliding it on here, and again, twist tying it. Okay, you want 1 clump on the second row and 2 clumps on this third row. And that's what's going to give you your layering of your petals, all right? So we'll do 1 more clump of yellow. See, look at these ones. These ones aren't as full as the first 2 that you saw. No biggie. We're still going to just do the same process, and they are going to turn out perfect. If you've got some that are really skinny and some that are really wide, you may want to use those together. So here's a really skinny one. I'll put it with a really chunky one, right? Here's a chunkier one, so I'm going to add the chunkier one here. But if 2 skinnies end up together, big deal. Because when all of the petals end up on there, they'll fill in next to each other, okay? All right, so my third clump, here we go. We're going to attach that right here. Like I said, we're going to end up with 2 clumps on the third wire and 1 clump on the second wire. Okay. So all of our yellow clumps in this section are tied on now. And you have a total of 6 sections. So you would continue to do this in every other section. All right? Now, for the green, I'm going to use a different method of cutting so that you can see another method. So with the green, we're not going to have as many leaves as we have petals. Flowers never have as many leaves as they have petals, right? So this method is a fun method. This is how I always cut tulle if I'm making a tutu. A lot of times I'll use this to cut yarn if I'm making pom-poms. Anyway, so you just cut a piece of cardboard. And here, let me see if I can find a quick, here's a yardstick. So you can see that this piece of cardboard is, a little bit wider than 10. So I don't want to use that side. And this way, it's between 9 and 10. Okay, so I'm going a little bit shorter than the 10 that we were looking for, right? So because as you start wrapping, it will take up space, and so you don't want to end up running out of materials. So I always cut this slightly shorter than what I want the outcome to be. So okay, so I've got this at 9.5, and I'm just going to start wrapping it around the cardboard like so. Oh, I lost it, but that's okay, because we'll just keep folding and you'll see what I'm talking about. So see, I'm just wrapping it, and I'm just going to keep going until I have my entire piece of green wrapped onto this cardboard. So some people think that this method is easier than the one that I showed you the first time. I think that they both are quick methods, and it just depends on if you want to go to the extra trouble of grabbing a piece of cardboard or not. Okay, so now what I want to do before I start cutting anything is count how many pieces I'm going to get out of this before I cut it. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 on this side. We should also have 9 on the other side. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Ooh. So I'm not going to have all the pieces that I want if I go ahead and cut now. Let's try one more time and just double count, because I could have counted wrong, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so I have a choice now. I can either go back, cut my cardboard a little bit skinnier, and rewrap. Totally fine. I'll end up with the 18 pieces that I want. Or I can decide it's okay if one leaf only has 1 green mesh on it, or if I want to make one leaf that has 3 green mesh on it. Well, they'll all have 3 green mesh, so one leaf that has, only 2 green mesh on it. Anyway, so either way, it's okay. It, again, doesn't have to be perfect. So I've decided I don't want to recut this and remeasure, so I'm just going to go with it as is. I'm okay with being short 1 square. So here we go. Cut, 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 cut. And again, if you want to do less layers at one time, totally okay. You can see my cut wasn't really perfect. It was a little bit wobbly. Totally all right. Just going to cut this all in the center. And it is a little bit easier for me when I lay things down flat and just try to cut instead of doing it up in the air. So you can see my second cut was a lot straighter. All right, so now we've got 6 sections we talked about, right? And you can do it the way you want, but the way that, that I'm doing it is I'm putting 3 of these together. You sure can. Okay. We gotta keep these kids fed. There you are. You're welcome. All right. So I've got my first one attached. We're doing the same exact method that we did with the yellow. So we're folding it into the center, smushing it all together, and then attaching it on. Okay, and we're taking a third one and doing the same thing. Okay, So now one of mine is only going to have 2 instead of 3. Totally okay. All right, so now the leaves, we want them to stick out the same way we wanted the petals to. And so we're going to kind of push them up like this. And I want 1 in each section. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on the outside ring. And I'm just twist tying it on again. Okay, there you go. So now you've got your green leaves and your yellow petals, and you just keep doing that through every section. Now, if you want to attach all of your green leaves first, and then go back in and attach 1 row of yellow petals and the second row of yellow petals, that's a great method. Or you can do it this way, where you do each section. It doesn't matter. There is no right or wrong way to go about adding them on. So do whatever makes most sense to you. So we all have our own, like, logic systems, and it's okay. Just trust yours, because that's probably what's going to work best for you. Okie doke. So we've got all of that cut and ready to go. Okay, let's see now. We are now going to work on the center. So in order to get this center, you've got to cut some of this plastic off a little bit. And by the way, the instructions do tell you at some point in time to trim these. I usually wait until the very end and do all my trimming at one time. So trim these and trim any of these loose hanging pieces, and if you trim those frayed sections, then it'll be perfect. If you trim them too soon, then you'll just be trimming again, because as you handle the wreath, the material will fray. Okay, so what you do is you just lay this down, and you literally take a pen and just trace a circle on here. So I already did that and cut one out because I'm trying to be a little bit speedier. So here's my cutout one. But it is that simple. You put this on top. In the middle, you just draw a circle. You can see there's a drawn circle there. You cut that circle out, and that's what creates your center. The center, it doesn't have to be perfect either. All right, so I mean, you don't want to get it super skinny, but you also don't want to get it super fat. But you can see this one in this area, I cut a little bit further in, and it doesn't quite meet the metal rod. That's okay. It's gonna get filled in with the mesh, and so you're not gonna see any of that. That won't be a problem at all. So I know I had some wire, and as I was cutting mesh, I dropped it on the ground. So here's my wire. This kit comes with 2 yards of wire, which is a ton of wire. I only need to attach this in 6 places, right? So, and realistically, I mean, I don't need more than like 5 or 6 inches to attach it. So I'm just gonna go ahead and cut off some pieces at 6 inches. Oh, I should just use wire cutters. Wire cutters are handy to do this because that way you don't ruin your scissors, and that way you can cut it a little bit faster without using as much muscle. So, I mean, again, doesn't have to be precise. I'm doing these approximately 6 inches long. Okay. Okay, so I've got 6 pieces that are approximately 6 inches long. I'm going to set those aside because I'm going to need those for attaching this to the wreath form. Now, with the rest of this, I don't know exactly how many puffs I'm going to have, but I also don't need as much wire because I am only attaching mesh to this plastic. I'm not having to go around the wire wreath frame with it. So, so I'm probably going to cut these a little bit smaller. And if you look at the instructions, you can kind of guess, okay, well, they did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like maybe right around 8 puffs. So I might have 8 to 10 puffs. And so I'm gonna need an extra one at the beginning and an extra one at the end. So let's say I need, 10 or 11 pieces of wire. Okay, so let's say I need 10. I'm just going to cut this in half. Okay, I've got 2 pieces now. So now I've got to get 5 out of each of these, right? Let's make it 12. That way it's easier. Okay, so now I've got 4 pieces. Just going to cut these in half again. Oh! Now I've got 8 pieces. Oh, I didn't do the math too good, did I? Now I only have 8 pieces, and I wanted like 10 or 12 pieces. So what should I do? Oh, I know. I'll look for the longest ones I have in this bunch. These 2 are longer. That one looks a little shorter. This one looks pretty long. That one looks on the long side. Those kind of look shortish. Okay, so what do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So if I cut a couple of these in half, I'll end up with 12. So that's what I'm going to do. Probably won't need them all. So I'm at 10 right now. Maybe I'll hang on to these and see if I need to even cut those in half. All right, I'm going to start with my shortest one, because that short one might be annoying to me. So let's use it at the beginning when it's the easiest. All right. So I'm just gonna scrunch this material together. I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna wrap it around it like that, so that it just is like a kind of like a horseshoe. I don't know if you can see that real well. So let me pull it away so that you can see what I'm talking about. See, I just like bent it in a horseshoe shape. And it is going to go around the outside of these. Now you can see, I mean, it doesn't take a lot of space, right? Like, so you don't need really long tails to do this. And I'm gonna find a spot on here close to the edge. I'm just gonna feed these through. They only need to go through one on a square above and one on a square below one of these ridges, okay? So I've poked it through, and I'm pushing it down so that it's real tight against the plastic. And now I'm just twisting it like a twist tie. Okay, I twisted it 3 times, and now it's really stable, right? Like, we don't have to worry about that thing going anywhere. Now you notice I left this sticking out. You could have done it where you tucked this under. So let me show you how that would look. It's not gonna matter like whichever one you choose. You can always trim, and you can always have another piece that like kind of covers this one. So like it doesn't matter which way you do it, okay? But let's try it another way just to show a second option. All right, so again, I need this to be kind of in a horseshoe shape, right? And now this time I'm gonna put it around the mesh so that I can tuck the mesh down under the poof. So you can see now this is going to be going this direction with this little scraggly part up underneath it, okay? And I'm right-handed, so I'm going from left to right. If you're left-handed, you're probably going to go the opposite direction. Again, I'm just going to find a place to start. I'm going to pull that wire through. And this one, I got it really, really, really close to the edge. I'm thinking that might be so close to the edge that if one of those breaks, ooh, I'd be in trouble. Okay, so I'm going to make it a little bit further away from the edge. Just slightly further away from the edge. There we go. That looks like a better spot. Okay, again, I'm going to hold this down against the mesh really tight, and I'm just going to twist these. Now, you can see, this side is shorter than that side. Not a big deal at all. Again, I'm just twisting these. If you're finding it difficult to work with a small piece of wire, this is really a handy way to do it. Like, you can just use these and grab both of these pieces. I gotta get them a little bit closer to each other. Grab both of these pieces and just twist them together like that. Okay, so you can see, I just use these little pincher guys, needle nose pliers, to do the twisting for me. So again, see, I've got both pieces of wire close to each other. I just put the needle nose pliers right over that, pinch the needle nose pliers together, and twist them. That'll just twist it for you, so you don't have to kill your fingers. So, just like before, when we're all done, we'll go back and we'll trim these off, because you don't want these like sticking out so tall, right? So, when you trim them, you can also bend them down, okay? Which I like to do. Just bend it over so that way those pokey little pieces aren't sticking out to get you. Okay, for your clumps, you've got quite a bit of mesh, more than you will probably need. Don't worry about that. I like my clumps to be like a couple of inches tall. I like them to look about like this. I think that that looks really cute. They're not too big, they're not too little, but you can make them bigger. Want it a little bit bigger? Okay, make it bigger. No biggie. So you want it smaller, it might get tough. So more difficult to do. I'm just gonna make my first clump, and I'm gonna start going all the way around this with clumps. So, and you know, if you want, I mean, I'll measure this for you just so that you can see. From one end to the other, it's somewhere between 6 and 7 inches of mesh that I pulled out. I usually tell people about 6 inches is good, but I never measure it. I do it completely by eyeball, just based on how puffy the puff is, okay? So now I found another section where I want this one to get placed. So now I'm going to go ahead and take one of my pieces. Again, I'm just going to, that was a really crickety horseshoe, right? You want it to be bent a little bit more in the middle than that. So I'm just going to bend it like a horseshoe again, so, or like a V, right? And you can see I've just gathered these together. So those are gathered together. I'm just going to take this again, wrap it around the mesh, and I'm going to push my mesh down in there, the center of that guy. And then I'm just going to find a section to poke these through. I want it pretty close to the edge, but not right on the edge again, okay? So you can see, close to the edge, but not on the edge. And one above the plastic piece, one below the plastic piece. And I'm just going to twist these guys together again. Okay, you don't need it twisted more than 2 or 3 times. So I've twisted it plenty. Snipped that off. And bent it over. Again, I don't do any of my snipping and bending until the very end. You do it whenever you feel comfortable doing it, okay? If you want to do it in the middle of the process like that, fine. Now you can see, these are on here really firmly. They're not going anywhere, all right? Just keep going all the way around. Do you think we should do the whole thing on this, or you think that that's enough of an example?
Maybe one more and that's good.
One more puff? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm doing one more puff, bending this in half, putting it around my mesh. Figuring out where it needs to be on here, sliding it in between the 2 plastic pieces, and then this one I'll do with my finger, just to, I usually use my fingers. Using equipment is way too complicated for me. That takes time and effort. Okay, here we go. snipped and bent. Okay, so I've got my puffs. I prefer to go all the way around the outside and then fill in my middle. That's just a preference. You don't have to do that. You could come back this way and just do it side to side all the way across. It really won't make any difference. I don't know why I like to go around the outside. Again, everybody has their own sense of logic and what makes sense to them. So do what feels most comfortable. When you are all done and you have put your last poof in place, what you want to do is just, again, attach it to this plastic canvas and then trim any excess. And you can do what we did at the very beginning, where
Oh, there we are. We're back.
okay.
Technical issues.
Technical difficulties.
There we go.
Okay, so you can see when you place this on, your poofs are actually gonna kind of come up and overlap your petals a little bit, which is perfect. Now, you can tell here, like there's like a little bit of green, you can see, not a big deal. You can slide these petals around to fill in and make it so that you don't see any green wires. No worries there. And how we're gonna attach this is I'm gonna flip this over so that you guys can see from the bottom. But I'm gonna take a piece of wire and I'm gonna feed it around the inner circle of the wire. And then I'm going to attach it to a point on the plastic canvas. We want it pretty close to the edge, but it doesn't have to be right on the edge. And then we just twist. And you're going to do that in each section. If you feel that that isn't sufficient, you can cut these shorter and you can attach it in 2 places in each section. There isn't any right or wrong answer. I can tell you this one I only attached in 1 place in each section, and that center isn't going anywhere. I mean, you can, it's secure. So, so 1 is sufficient for it to be secure. Anyway, so that's how it turns out. Isn't it so cute and really very simple? The key to this is don't get really serious about it. Just remember, we just want to end up with approximately 18 squares of green and 36 squares of yellow. And don't worry if one of your puffs is a little bit bigger than the other. As you can tell, this one is smaller than this one. It still looks super cute. It doesn't matter. Okay, so take it easy on yourself and just have fun with it, okay? And you'll do great.